All right, ladies and gentlemen, Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney went to Davos and took shots at Donald Trump. But ladies and gentlemen, here's the problem. Canada depends on the United States. If you guys didn't know, about 70% of Canada's exports we are responsible for, versus they only take in 3% of ours. Even its energy markets run through American pipelines and refineries. And so when Carney, when he's posturing on the world stage, he's not challenging a rival. He's testing the one partner Canada cannot afford to lose. No. And you can't publicly challenge the one partner your economy runs through and expect there to be no consequences and no response. Because with Trump, there usually is one. As always, smash the thumbs up button. That's how I know you like the video. Subscribe for more and share this video. That way more people see what's really going on. Let's get into it.
On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals. And we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid.
This is about America first and our ability to save their asses. As Trump said at Davos, you'd all be speaking German if it weren't for us, which really pissed off the French once they had it translated into Arabic. But this is why, perhaps, that Europe often badmouths us. Nothing bothers the Euro elite like the fact that they owe us. That stupid conference exists to make powerful people in parkas feel superior to the country that makes them look small. And Trump walked in and reminded them that they're not superior or not even our equal. He didn't go there to apologize or to blend in or to be lectured. He went there to say 2 words, "You're welcome," and then added 3 more, "Now pay up."
We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your Prime Minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, just like that, the president showed he means business. Because this wasn't just talk. Mark Carney went to Davos and delivered a speech that was clearly aimed at the U.S. approach, warning about powerful countries using tariffs and economic pressure to control smaller ones, right? Basically trying to rally middle powers against that kind of leverage. Okay, cool speech. We let you get yours off. But here's the reality. When you take shots at the country you rely on most, you're gambling with your own access. And Trump responded the way Trump responds, with consequences. And he didn't just clap back. He pulled Canada's invitation to join his new Board of Peace, the international initiative he launched around Davos that's tied to his Gaza plan. And this isn't some symbolic little club either, with many believing it will do better than the United Nations.
Well, yes, Brian, I mean, the UN in many ways, if it's about, was formed to begin peace on the world. It's been a failure, an epic failure. And even in the last 4 years, you can see that under President Biden, whether it's Russia, Ukraine, the Iran funding 24 different terror groups, so much of the United States funding the United Nations, and then the United Nations not just taking votes against the U.S., but actually funding programs were anti-American. So President Trump, as he said a year ago when he took office, that he was going to be focusing on America first, and that means don't fund organizations that are actually our adversaries. And so the Board of Peace is an opportunity to essentially strike a new path with people that want the same things that the United States wants, which is people want peace, they want prosperity.
And the reported buy-in is a massive $1 billion price tag for permanent membership. And so the message every leader watching is simple. You don't get to badmouth America publicly and still expect a seat at the table privately. That era is over.
And reporters tried to ask the Prime Minister for his reaction to the fact that he's been disinvited, but he did not stop to speak to reporters either. This news that he was disinvited did come quite late yesterday after this first day of the Cabinet Planning Forum had wrapped up, and the Prime Minister was actually out to dinner with his ministers and secretaries of state when that happened. I will say, though, that reporters did try to speak to Carney just before he left the Citadel here in Quebec City, where this planning forum is taking place. A question was put to him at that time about Trump, and he said something to the effect that he didn't like that question. Come up with a better question is actually what he said, and perhaps that gives you a sense of how he's feeling. It's not clear if he got a heads up that Trump was going to disinvite him and post this on Truth Social. That's still a question that remains out there.
And so here's what happened. Carney thought Davos was just going to be a safe stage to posture on. It was his safe space. He goes in front of the global crowd, talks about the old order being dead, warns about powerful countries using tariffs and economic pressure, and everyone claps. But then reality hits. Canada doesn't live in the Davos ballroom. Canada lives next door to the United States. And so when Trump says Canada depends on America, which they do, Carney fires back with the Canada thrives because it's Canadian line.
Canada and the United States have built a remarkable partnership in the economy, in security, and in rich cultural exchange. But Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
Yeah, and so he may score points with the international audience and the home crowd, but he's also poking the one partner that can make life expensive fast. And Trump responded the Trump way. He pulled Canada's invitation to the Board of Peace and turned it into a public example. You don't get to take shots at America and still expect VIP access like nothing happened. That's why it backfired. Carney wanted applause. He got a lesson in leverage instead.
Congratulations, President Trump. The charter is now in full force, and the Board of Peace is now an official international organization.
And just like that, Mark Carney makes a major error in judgment, choosing short-term applause over long-term strategy, because the Board of Peace is not another symbolic side project. It already has dozens of countries on board, and the membership is still growing. And so while other nations are lining up for a seat at the table, Carney decided to take public shots, and Canada got left out. And here's Marco Rubio breaking down the scope of it. Take a listen.
I also want to acknowledge the extraordinary leaders that are here today. This is not just a board of peace, this is a board of action. Just like President Trump is a president of action. A lot of times people like to give speeches. I've been to many of these forums, and they're not useless, and they're not, they have utility in many cases. But oftentimes in international affairs, we often find ourselves at events where people are reading these scripted statements, these strongly worded letters that they put out, but no action, nothing happens. This is a group of leaders that are about action. And the President of the United States is a president of action, of getting things done. And today is the beginning of that, of a new era and a new stage that we think is so important as a model to the rest of the world of what is possible. And clearly the focus is right now on Gaza and making sure that the plan that's about to be presented to you here today, this vision for the future of Gaza, this vision for the future of the region, is not just possible and promising. It is our destiny if we put the time and the effort that it requires, as I know this board will do. But I also think it will serve as an example of what's possible in other parts of the world. Without losing focus on what's before us now, this is what's possible for other places and other conflicts that seem impossible to solve right now. But I also think it will serve as an example of what's possible in other parts of the world. Without losing focus on what's before us now, this is what's possible for other places and other conflicts that seem impossible to solve right now. So I want to, on behalf of the United States, on behalf of the team that worked so hard on this, thank every single one of the leaders that are here today and all of the countries that have committed to joining, and many others who are going to join. You know, others either are not in town today or they have to go through some procedure internally in their own country because of constitutional limitations, but others will join. Many want to be a part of this effort because it is going to be a successful effort. And you see it reflected here today among countries of different backgrounds from different parts of the world, majority Christian, some, majority Muslim, others, who've come together. In fact, former adversaries who have joined here as part of this Board of Peace. And all was possible, and I want to acknowledge this again, because of the vision and the drive of the President of the United States. So thank you all for joining us here today. We appreciate it very much.
What Mark Carney did here wasn't just a bad headline. It was a misplaced strategic blunder with long-term consequences, because this peace board isn't about Trump's personality or one presidency. Even after Trump is gone, this will still exist, and that matters because it's positioned to do what institutions like the United Nations have failed to do for decades. Act fast, negotiate early, and prevent conflicts before they explode. And look at who's involved. You're talking about ascending global power centers, countries that don't just talk influence, they control leverage. Carney didn't just lose a seat at a table. He sidelined Canada from a future power structure that will be shaping energy stability, conflict resolution, and a global order long after today's headlines fade. But those are my thoughts. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That tells me you like the video. Subscribe for more. And as always, until next time.